This week's episode is brought to you by Not That California Brewery and the Rock Bottom Bar, an independent craft brewery based in the small town of California, Falkirk, who produce a wide range of craft beers. The brewery's tap room, the Rock Bottom, is located in the heart of Falkirk, and it's the only live music and craft beer bar in town. 28 taps, 18 of them are guest lines which change weekly. Live music every Saturday and most Fridays. The link is in the bio of this episode. And listen in to hear our beers of the week pouring at the Rock Bottom.
On this week's episode, we talk perfect pubs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to another weekly episode of the Beer Fridge Podcast, your home of real beer, real breweries, real opinions. As always, wherever you listen to this episode, make sure you subscribe, hit that ding-a-ling-a-ling to be notified of every single episode. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and hit that follow button as well. You can show your support by giving us a 5-star rating, and you can show your official support by going to patreon.com/Beer Fridge Podcast. I'm here with my drinking buddies. I've got Scott and I've got Callum. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Let's go around the table and start things off as we usually do and see what we're drinking to kick things off.
Let's go around the table.
I just got cramp on my leg. Callum, what are you drinking, mate?
I am in heaven. I am drinking an 80 shilling. Surprise, surprise. This one is by Cromarty. And it is, as I said, an 80 shilling, multi-smooth and easy, 4.3%. And it's just delicious. It really is. It's really dark and smooth, creamy, fabulous malt flavour, and just a nice wee hop bitterness at the end, just to round things off. It's absolutely delicious.
Nice. I myself staying very local. A brewery in Lewis, not Beak, not Abyss, but I'm going more traditional. Harvey's Brewery. And the mother-in-law picked this up for me. Just, I don't know why actually. Just to say thank you. And I got she got picked me up Pegasus Round, a citrus and British hopped IPA, which is actually tasting very, very, very nice. This is would, I believe, taste 100% better on cask. So a little bit citrus, a little bit of those kind of fruity flavours coming through as well. Nice and clear, and that kind of straw colour. Not much head, but I think that's my glass, to be honest. I think my glass is a bit fucked. But thoroughly enjoying it, and I look forward to trying it on cask because I, doing a little bit of research, found that a pub down the road has it on cask, so I'll be trying that there. But it's tasting very, very nice. And on brand with the last 2 episodes what we've done. So good stuff from Harvey's there. Gilroy, what you got? You bum.
I looked for it today, but I couldn't find it.
Oh, I hate you so much.
This is Alligator Tugboat. It is by Pressure Drop Brewing. It's probably in terms of if you were to go for hype beers, it's probably I would say, maybe number 2, number 3 on the list of hype beers in terms of the stuff that gets all the kind of picks up. Although this year, I must admit, other than a couple of things I've seen on social media, it's been quite understated. Although it's one I think a lot of craft beer nuts look forward to. I'm no exception to that. I got dropped a couple of cans off from a tall, bald friend. He dropped a couple off for me, which is good, alongside a few other excellent selections. So it's a West Coast IPA, for those that don't know. You've been hiding under a rock, or this is just your kind of gateway in, I suppose. It's a West Coast IPA. It celebrates Simcoe. Alligator Tugboat, I didn't realise this till the Wackaging. I don't think I've read this before, but it's an amphibious. The Alligator Tugboat is an amphibious steam-powered logging boat invented in 1878 in the town of Simcoe, Ontario. So that's why, obviously, that's the main hop involved on Ontario, Canada, A. Fanny. I knew that.
I knew that.
Fanny,
Fuck's
eh?
sake. It's resinous, citrus, and dank, which I would say it does. I would say it's more well balanced than perhaps that suggests. So
Yeah.
don't let it take you down. Like, it's not going to be a better hype number. I think it's perfectly well balanced with all of those notes in it, as opposed to something that's punching you in the cootum with those three particular points. I think it does. It has a good bit of sweetness in there. It's probably one of the best Westies at hiding the ABV. It's definitely doesn't drink like 7.2. It goes down far too easy. Scarily easy for that. Cans are amazing. Can't miss them. They're pink with a big mouth on them and a gold tooth. By a legendary street artist called, would you guess, Sweet Tooth with an F. And it's excellent. It's absolutely superb. This year's rendition is just as good.
Is it still on the can? Is it just still saying like IPA, or is it now saying Westie on it? So I'm sure I either said just IPA or it said Pale Ale or something.
Alligator Tugboat IPA 7.2%.
See, I like that it says that though.
Yeah, it's a kind of, I would say probably along the lines of like a classic IPA, as opposed to being something that has to go out there and say kind of West Coast. Obviously, it mentions it in the packaging here on the Pressure Drop website, just for that extra bit of description, I think. Also, I must mention price point. 7.2% in comparison to some other things that exist at that percentage. When you think craft, take your heat at the supermarket for a second. It's only $5.40 a can. I think that's pretty good.
Is that online at Pressure Drop? It's that price.
That is online at Pressure Drop. It is that price. Would be, I can imagine there'll be a slight markup if you're getting it. The other thing I would say is if it's still going, like cans, and I think Pressure Drop's website is, you have to go some for the old free shipping. It's £65 for the free shipping on Pressure Drop. You might club together with some local friends in order to order up to that amount, or just be super greedy. Bin off your doubled up Bruiser order for a month. I'm sure they'll forgive you for pointing that way for 1 month just to make sure you get a hold of some. I didn't see it. I must admit, I thought I might, with it being kind of release day and stuff. I don't know. I thought the trade release would have been a wee bit sooner. I expected to see something against the grain when I was there, but there wasn't any there either, Callum. So it wasn't the only spot. Although it's harder, I think, when you're commanding that any kind of price above the norm and then asking people to stick a markup on top of it. I think is difficult for smaller bottle shops who build their reputation on the basis of being pretty reasonable. It's difficult to go and get as much if it's no local.
I was in High Spirits, obviously, earlier on. It's where I got my Cromarty beer. But I walked past the Beer Cave as well, and last week they had a can of putty in the window, and they're like their window display.
How much is that putty in the window?
Rough. And this week they've upgraded to also include a can of putty in the black can.
Can you ask if you could have the display can that's right in the sunlight?
No.
I was briefly tempted to go in and get a can of the triple putty, but then I changed my mind. But they certainly never had.
I've heard mixed reviews on that.
Well,
I mean, since when have you not heard mixed reviews about it?
No, true, and it's a fair point. I've seen it might have just been for like clout, and it might not even been the actual beer, but I seen a video of somebody pouring it down the sink. Now, granted, it could have been another beer and just try to get views, which wouldn't have been a bad idea. But on the note of Pressure Drop, if you are struggling to get to that £60 mark, I know they have just released another beer today as we speak on the 4th of March, a collaboration with Asvex called 1 on 1. New England IPA, exactly. 6.5 percentage points. So there's that if you need to bump up and boost up your order. And
I like the look of their. I'm just on their website now, obviously, because I'm talking about it. But there's another Westie they've got on here, which is called Westie, and it's Westie all the way through. And it must be a slightly older beer, but it's only 5.25 a can. It's still 7.2%, but it's got a much cooler name. I would say it's called Watch It Burn,
oh,
and it's like looks at a kind of. It looks like a kind of head of a wedding table type thing, and then there's a big fire facing them. It looks quite smart.
well, while we're talking about
proper Westie.
new things like that, let's dive deep into this week's news.
News update.
Cal, I know you are full of news this week.
Right. With news leaking everywhere. Just a few headlines, really.
Do you want the bong? I need to get
no-
a bong. Bong.
Aye, I know.
Music
I noticed
tin.
with some dismay the news that I don't know if you can bear to cast your memories back to the depths of COVID, where the government passed sort of emergency legislation to allow pubs off license abilities, so they could sell takeaway cans and things. Well, this the easing of the license, that legislation was only temporary, and it's due to expire at the end of this month, so at the end of March. And there's some pretty big noise coming from the beer industry and the pub industry for the government to take some action to protect or make permanent this, given the pretty big hole that the Chancellor announced in the budget in terms of the hospitality and pub industry. This is got another nail in the coffin for some pubs if they can't sell their takeaway cans. So that was a bit unfortunate. On a good news story, I'm not alone. I assume that when going into the office, the go-to lunchtime staple is going to your local supermarket for a meal deal. So you go in and you get your sandwich and you get your packet of crisps and you get your can of juice. Well, now some supermarkets, and Sainsbury's is the one that I've seen, are now including alcohol-free beers in their meal deal options. So there was a rather pleased-looking punter standing outside a Sainsbury's with his sandwich and his packet of crisps and a can of Corona alcohol-free. And the question was, would you drink this at your desk? And fucking 100%, absolutely, I would drink an alcohol-free beer at my desk. But I thought that was quite cool.
I've seen somebody attempt that many years ago. I've seen somebody attempt it with a can of Strongbow, dark fruits. That didn't go down quite so well as the whilst in your probationary or not even probationary kind of training period, coming up with the immortal line, "It's only 4%."
Just get a sharp pen, right? Alcohol free on the can.
Aye.
Right. Oh God.
Black currant and apple juice.
There was another couple that I had seen, Lost Cause Brewing, who only arrived on the scene last year, but up until now they have been sort of contract brewing and as was it gypsy brewing? Is that the term? I don't know whether that's politically correct or no.
Cuckoo.
Do you know?
Cuckoo brewing.
Cuckoo brewing. Is it no cock? I don't know. Is that right?
That's the chair in the hotel rooms.
That's that chair again.
That's that chair.
But anyway, they've launched a crowdfunder with a view to raising £60,000 for their own brew kit. So good luck to them on that.
On that
And
one,
my
they're
last-
actually a brewery.
Oh, sorry, carry on,
incidentally.
carry on.
Sorry, Cal. They're a brewery I 100% want to get on this year. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the guy that started it and the head brewer, he's a award-winning brewery with multiple other breweries previously. So a good pedigree there, and 100% want to try and get them on at some point this year when I get my finger out my arse and start booking guests again. I know. Last
Nice.
one, Cal.
Last one. No tours on Saturdays. But how about a wee dram? Fiona and Ewan, the founders of Loch Lomond Brewing, have diversified, and they've created their own distillery, and they've called it Leavenhead. Is that what it's? No, Leavenbank Distillery. So again, I think it was through COVID or within the last few years, they've been doing contract distilling and making gin. And they've decided they're wanting to try and take their brewing expertise and lend that into making whiskey. So what they're aiming for is to try and create the perfect wort. So use the brewing recipes. So use the recipes for the beer to create the wort and then distill it into spirit. Which I think sounds really, really interesting, because you don't get a lot of I mean, I don't know enough about whiskey and the process and stuff to know how much attention gets paid to the recipe for the wort, because I know that a lot of the effort and a lot of the mastery is putting it in the right cask and then blending the different vintages together and things like that to make your single malt whiskey. But they're taking it right back to the basic beer recipe first and foremost. So that's really interesting. So watch this space for Leavenbank Distillery.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like they've got this natural byproduct after they've done the beer, and a lot of breweries we've spoke to, like especially like smaller local ones, will give it to the local farmer for the livestock and stuff. So yeah, why not try and
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because it's the same process, you know, making a beer and making a whiskey up until the point where you've got that wort. You know, rather than putting it into the fermenter and letting it ferment, they're taking that sugary liquid and they're distilling it. So it's really interesting. So I'm looking forward to trying some of that.
That'll be cool.
Not like be cool
See what they
indeed.
do. Might as well use the make sure they've got the cat. And obviously, it's a whiskey's something that obviously it's a premium product, so you can obviously you're having to pay your duty or whatever for it to try and sell it, but there's a market there for it, and whiskey and things like that is going. It's not all about your kind of known kind of brands anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are seen as kind of stuffy, I would say, sometimes. So it's about kind of finding what's new and finding what's out there, and that's good. I mean, it's good to make sure you're using the kit for more than just the beer.
Aye. And to have an angle
Maybe you'll get a distillery tour on a Saturday, you never know.
Bet you, aye. Like you say, to have an angle like that. I mean, I went to, you know, when we were coming up, it was all about your ages. So it was a 12-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or whatever it was. But I remember it was a few years ago now, I went to the distillery at Deanston, near Doon, and they were focusing more on what the whiskey's sitting in rather than the fact that it was sitting for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It was, we're going to sit it in this particular cask for a year or 18 months, and then we're going to blend it with this one that's been sitting in this cask for 18 or 20 months, and it's still a single malt whiskey, but it's just got a different angle to it. It's really interesting.
All right, good stuff. Shout out to a couple of beer festivals that are starting this month. We're getting into springtime, so that means beer festivals will be back, which is good fun. On the 7th of March, the day you probably listen to this podcast, in Sheffield, you've got the Indie Beer Fest on the 7th. On the 15th of March, you've got a beer festival by the Staggeringly Good Guys, the Warehouse Beer Festival, and then also on the 15th is the Paisley Beer Festival as well. So 2 options on that weekend, whether you're south or north of the border. So a couple of festivals to keep your eye out for this month. I am buzzing well excited for festival season to get kicked off once again. Looking forward to them all. Brew London, These Hills, I've got tickets for that already. That was gifted to me by the wifey for Christmas. So, yes. Looking forward to... Yes, and Big Swally.
In April.
And then the even bigger Swally.
Yeah, that's just been announced, so we need to decide whether we're going to that or not.
Yes, indeed. So, looking forward to getting stuck into all those festivals, and we'll always give you updates when and where we can. Gilroy, anything you want to shout out, mate?
Just the a brewery we've had on the podcast. I was having a wee look at the Beer Writers Guild News Hogsback.
Yes.
You remember them?
Mhm.
Yes, I do.
Hogsback
Good
have
beer.
just
Good beer.
reopened their tap room after a 2-month renovation. They've got that back
Ooh,
open
lovely.
again in the village of Tongham. Was looking at some of their beers and stuff like that. They were doing. It's a bigger bar. Recycled wooden beer barrels, new stone, wooden flooring, investment in chairs, tables, sofas, the usual shit you need in a bar, I suppose. Can't believe they've itemised all that in their press
I
release.
know.
But there you go. There'll be somewhere for
Kind of
you to.
thing you don't-
There'll be somewhere for you to sit.
It's the kind of thing you don't really think about, though. You know, that if you're wanting to make a change or do a bit of renovation or whatever, that you know, that could cost you thousands just to
Yeah.
change your seating or whatever.
True
Mm.
that. But it looks good. The place looks good from the pictures I've seen.
Definitely, aye. Founded in 1992. I didn't really realise that it went back quite as far as that. My favourite beer name of theirs, if you're looking for, this was Camera's champion bottled beer winner in 2020. It's called A over T, and it's a 9% ABV beer. Apparently, A over T stands for Aromas over Tongham, but there's only one A over T. And just I'm aware of anyway. But I saw they were a previous. Obviously, we've had them on the podcast before some time ago, but it's good to shout on back out. They're the brewery that, if you remember, have the big hop garden.
Yep.
So they have they've got Fuggles, English Cascade, and Farnham Whitebine hops all available. So that won a LeMay Cup in 2024 for the Whitebine hop and received gold and silver awards for Fuggles and English Cascade. So quite a good.
Nice.
I would say it's more than a garden. If you're winning awards and stuff for it,
It's at least an allotment.
Aye.
Yes, it's maybe might be a small holding. If you're winning awards like that for your hops, and obviously it's good to have the climate for a homegrown
No.
hop. There's no money in the UK manage that, so excellent and good on them for opening their tap room back up. I can imagine when they do obviously we spoke to them at length about the hop harvest and things like that before,
Yes.
and that would still be kick-ass to go to. And the other one purely for industry listeners, I'd imagine. Guild members have got free tickets to BeerX on both days,
Yes, which is
19th and 20th of March.
aye.
So if you're a guild member
I'm glad
of
you
the
reminded.
Beer Writers Guild and fancy a trip to Liverpool, there's going to be some pre-event refreshments and a breakfast sandwich at the venue
Oh.
for you to do some mixing and chat, some networking of the highest possible order, and you enjoy a beer with breakfast. You can head along to BeerX in Liverpool.
I've heard, we've heard actually that BeerX is a bit mental, like, because it
Is indeed.
is like heavily industry folk, and in fact, it is just that. It is a bit of a party.
Yes, it is. It's a good opportunity for people in the industry to kind of obviously meet up, network. We've heard of a lot of collaborations coming out of BeerX and stuff as well. Some good investment in kit and things like that also, over a couple of beers naturally. And then the very last thing I promise I'll shout out, and you can move section, Gavin, I promise. But it was about Pete Brown. So if you were looking for an excuse to renew or restart your Sunday Times subscription, Pete Brown's been hired by the Times to do a dedicated regular beer column for the first time in nearly 20 years. So
Pete Brown,
it's
if
a
you
good
don't
time
know,
to move
is
back into a broadsheet.
yeah, is an award-winning beer writer. Got several books. I think you've got a couple of them. You know, Gil?
Yes, the one about the journey of IPA. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's an excellent read. Tremendous audiobook as well.
Indeed.
My arm's only long enough to read the Times.
You'll get it on your fire.
on your
Hmm.
on your tablet and all that jazz. Shout out as well, and just a reminder to people listening that we will be taking part in the Hop Run 2025, and we are raising money. And I want to shout out the people that we've got 100 quid so far. So shout out
Yeah.
Mike, Craig, Keith, Emma, and Ollie from Mirakai as well. Callum, again, it's best coming from yourself. Remind people who and what we're raising money for.
We are raising money for the Anne Rowling Degenerative Neurology Clinic. It's a facility in Edinburgh that provides treatment and also research into neurological conditions such as MS, motor neuron disease, and Parkinson's. And it's really a really fantastic facility. As I say, it's the guys there are doing some fantastic work, and it's personally speaking, it's always a nice place to go. It's not super clinical. It's a warm, friendly space, and even the research. I've taken part in some of the studies and stuff, and it's really inclusive, and they're doing some phenomenal work. So yeah, that's every donation is greatly appreciated, and hopefully we can get that tally up a little bit before June the 7th.
Indeed. Early doors, but I appreciate everyone that's donated so far. Like I said, we're up to £100, so fantastic. Muchly appreciated, greatly appreciated. And every donation, or every single penny goes straight to the Anne Rowling Centre. So thank you once again. Looking forward to the Hop Run, I think. Right then, I mentioned at the start, Perfect Pub. Perfect. Oh, in fact, just tell us what that is before we do Perfect Pub, Cal.
I'm going to need to do a bit of Googling to find out what date is actually in it. But
Big
big can,
Big can.
but a fucking cool can. Massive
That is
D on the
that
side.
Huge D. Love a huge
Yeah,
D.
so it's all about the D. This is called Saloon Doors. That's a West Coast IPA. 6.3% ABV, and it is fantastic. This was canned in February, so it's super fresh. From the guys at Donzo, now of Newcastle again.
No.
But it's really, really nice. I'll come back and talk about it a bit more later on, Gav. I've only had one mouthful, but it was really nice.
Roger Dodger.
Yep.
Well, you can take over here because Perfect Pub is your idea, your segmente, and looking forward to it. Actually, tell us more.
Yeah, so Gav's had a wee bit of time to think about his. So I'll go first, and then Scott, and then Gav can go next, and that'll give Scott some time to straighten his face first and foremost, and then and then do some thinking. So I had an idea about doing a wee segment about your Perfect Pub. Now I'm not sure. Gav reckons we've maybe done something similar, if not the same, a few years ago. But we'll do it again because we're struggling here. So my idea was just to think about what would be my perfect pub. So I think the most important thing is the drinks that are getting served in my perfect pub. So the first thing I had was Tank Fresh Lager. Would be a must. So there's no stipulation about what the lager is. It could be changed. It could be changed up every now and again. Then I want it uncomplicated. I don't want 12 different IPAs on tap. I want one IPA, one West Coast IPA, one double IPA, and one stout on keg.
Yep.
And again, these aren't there all the time. They're changed weekly. And to go along with that, I want cask in abundance.
Yes.
So lots and lots of cask. And whiskey.
Oh.
I want a massive collection of malt whiskies on the gantry above the bar. Sorry, I just have to pause for a wee second because I've got a child wanting to say night.
Oh, that's all right. Well, while you do, I fully agree with beer is king in terms of pubbage. And a lot of the places where we have been and we have enjoyed the most have been where the beer has just been tip top.
Hmm.
And where
Yes.
you've got a decent, when you've got a decent selection. I'm not talking like, I don't need 12, 15, 20 odd taps to choose from.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice to go
Yeah.
in and to have that, but for a pub, for a local, for something that you're going to go to every couple of days, or that kind of thing at the bottom of your garden. That's what you're after, really.
No.
And in terms of ambience, this is the second list that I've got. So these are my stipulations. I want an open fire.
Oh, must.
I want an open fireplace. I want there to be. I don't mind having to pay an extra 40 pence, 50 pence on the price of every pint, but I want every pint to come with a packet of crisps.
Amazingly.
Yeah,
This is a fucking surprise.
yeah. There has to be a pool table in the pub.
Yep, agree.
The pub has to have a 24-hour license, and that is purely to allow us to watch American sports live, a la Super Bowl, NBA, that kind of thing. You'll not be allowed in the pub if you're under 30 years of age,
Oh, okay.
and you won't be allowed in the pub if you've got Crocs on. And the last stipulation that I had was that would have an Uber driver on permanent retainer, and he can
Yep.
he can either sit in the corner of the pub on his phone, or he can sit outside in his car, and whenever anybody needs to be taken anywhere, he's on standby.
I agree. I agree with the taxi service, definitely. So I've put down all I wanted. I just need 6 taps. 6 taps, 6 keg taps. 2 of them have to be local beers, from local breweries. I'll agree with you
For local
for local people. 1, I'll agree with you in the Tank Fresh Lager. I agree with that. So that takes 3 of my taps up, and then it's going to be 1 stout, and then 2 whatever, some Nipas or whatever, West Coast. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Also require a minimum of 2 cask beers. So I'm saying we need 2. And they didn't have to be your traditional camera numbers. Like, it could be one of those, and it can be
Yeah.
one. Try to be a wee bit different, using more more modern techniques, modern hops and stuff. So, mixing it up a wee bit, bringing the trendy kids to the cask side. I'll put an age limit. I like it, but maybe I'll say 25. I'll say 25.
Oh
maybe.
no!
I need to have board games. There has to be some form of gameage, whether it's video game. No, in fact, no video games actually. Like playing cards. We need something like that. Something that you can just mess about with, have a good laugh. Jukebox is required. One evening is dedicated to live music. I don't mind genre.
Do
I can
you
be
know one
flexible.
thing? Do you know one thing I thought about was that
Yeah.
I think Miguel might be on board with this, is a quiet hour.
Oh yeah, like that. I like that.
So like a rigidly enforced quiet hour. So if you come in between 5 and 6 or whatever the time is, the pub is completely silent.
It's like a library. You sit down, shut your hole, drink your beer.
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah.
Kind of spin off from that, and this is probably more up Gilroy's neck of the woods. A dedicated space, not for smoking, a dedicated cigar kind of place area where you can sit and
Cigar dome.
inside. Exactly. And you can have a nice beer and you can have a nice cigar, and there's a rack of cigars that you can choose from. That would be pretty cool. Bacon fries are a must. In terms of confectionery, bacon fries are 100% needed and required. Multiple TVs, but also a designated area where there is no TVs. So one side can have TVs. So if you want to watch football, whatever, you've got all that. But one side is just I agreed with you initially on the open fire, and I'm backtracking a wee bit because it can just get a wee bit smoky, and then everyone just fucking congregates, wants to be next to the fire. So I'm backtracking on that. But yeah, one side can be TVs, football, whatever related. The other side just a quieter side of the room. And to piggyback off your no Crocs, I am adding no dry robes. Fuck your dry robes. Don't want to see them.
Good shout.
No dry robes needed. So
Aye.
I'm going. with that.
Always makes me laugh. You know, I take the kids to school every morning, and see the amount of dry robes you see on the school run,
Oh,
and you can guarantee that not a single one has ever seen a wild swim in its entire life.
Aye. There's a Facebook group called was it Dry Robe Wankers?
that's
and,
it.
And it was the one I'd seen the day, which was at a bingo hall, and it was when you've got the bingo at 6:30, but the North Sea at 8.
Aye.
Unbelievable, man.
Aye. It's like all the twats in the 80s that had the desert boots. And the driest place that they've seen is fucking Cleethorpes or something like that. You can it's never it's never been south of Southampton. Never mind the Sahara. Again.
Another thought. Dogs are 100% allowed. Dogs, no cats. Cats can fuck off. Dogs are in.
But as soon as the dogs, if there's any aggro betwixt dogs,
aye, no
okay,
yappy dogs. Any aggro, you're out. Just quiet dogs. Quiet dogs. That
I'm
come
not.
and just
I'm
sit.
going to caveat that, Gav, and say the pub must have a dog.
A dog. All right.
So there has to be a pub dog.
Right. Right.
You know that's always there. So when you come in, the dog will come round and have a wee sniff and sit and get its ear scratched and just make the whole atmosphere generally nicer. But I agree with Miguel. Like
a big dog, no like a shitty little fucking.
Aye.
but no slabbery.
No.
Aye. Mm-hmm.
It's a
trying to
big
think of
lab
a-
or something,
like,
a
Aye.
big retriever type deal.
Comes in, just goes, all right, how you doing? All right, cool. All checked. All checked, boss.
Mhm.
he's
That's you
allowed
again.
in. He's allowed in. The bacon fried tariff has been has been received. He's allowed in. Right, go for it, Gilroy.
So I would say between 6 and 8, or maybe between 8 and 10 lines. I would have a couple on cask too. In
Mm.
particular, I would always have a kind of hoppier, kind of session-ish beer on cask, and then I would have something a bit more robust, and maybe darker, a red ale or a stout or something like that. That was a wee bit higher in ABV, but not being totally mental, but a rotation on that.
Aye.
I'm going to take the Blue Blazers. I'm just going to smart our beer and ambience together. Blue Blazers cheese board on
Oh.
Sundays.
Mm.
Cheese board on Sundays is an absolute must.
Like as soon as you walk in and sit at your table, like one of those kind of jobs, go there, you go
Just on,
serve
the,
us a
just
wee-
on or at the bar where
Aye.
this is gratis under some cloches, a few bits of some cheeses and
Nice.
some crackers and some bits and pieces lying out. I would also add in terms of beers, I would have. I'm going to be specific. I would have Budvar, dark and regular on the
Yep.
side pool.
Nice.
Or alternatively, some, and then have a local lager on for there as well. But I think if you're really struggling, you can't know like either of those two, and there's only so
Exactly.
many places. Obviously, side pour that stuff or have it tank fresh. So I would have that, and it would definitely have to have a dark lager in there for sure. And then a kind of mixture of, I would always have Sierra Nevada on draft. That would be that would be an absolute must, specifically if it was my pub. I quite like the idea of having the music and things like that on, and maybe a jukebox and stuff. I would have a designated FIFA telly.
Oh, I like that.
To put your name up for the tournament, because it's something I can actually play and have a chance at winning it, which is it's not the case when it comes to pool, darts, or dominoes normally. Unless I get a good run, unless I get a particularly helpful hand at the old dominoes, then that you could put. I would have the tellies. I would have kind of American sports bar style TVs with kind of 4 or 6 with different
Yep.
things on, so you've always got something to watch. a kind of sports centre type thing or whatever on. I would also have some, if you wanted to anyway, and you had some groups in or whatever, some of the kind of Belfast pub or Peaky Blinders style alcoves with the door that shuts.
Oh,
You
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
snug
yeah.
snug,
in the
wee
pub
snug,
where you
aye.
can go in
I like
a couple of
that.
them down the side. And then last thing I'd probably add in would be, and I'm torn here, I can't make a decision. It would either be the ability to phone and order your own stuff, food, and bring it in, but you would
Mhm.
have like every conceivable kind of establishment at your
Uh-huh.
fingertips. Or alternatively, Desi pub style, like I want a big, like a proper tandoor, full blown pakora for weeks.
Oh.
Naan breads the size of actual elephant's ears. And like they can do like naan bread pizzas, like Shaz. I don't know if you've ever seen any adverts for Gavin. You maybe not get this on your algorithm, but Shaz and Hamilton,
Aye, aye.
Chasney
Naan breads,
pizza, naan bread.
naan breads that have got their own postcode. Again.
Aye, 100%. Just incredible stuff. But I was reading a good bit about it was in Johnny's book actually, about the Desi pubs in London.
Mm.
And there's some of them do some of the best Indian food in the world.
Go on.
And
Aye.
and it's in a pub
Ooh.
with some of the best beer ever.
See, I'm going to be picky and be like, don't get me wrong. I love.
Maybe the Desi bit's 3 doors away.
Mm.
So
See,
you're
this is
so you're no full Garlissimo.
Yeah.
Aye, like, I didn't want my pub smelling like an
know.
Indian takeaway or an Indian restaurant.
then-
and didn't get me wrong, I love that, and going in and sitting in, and sitting in and having an Indian meal and a proper like our locals karma, and going in, and you cannot beat going in and sitting in for an Indian. But I'm not wanting that. I'm not wanting
yeah.
that.
Maybe like we could do the order whatever you want in there, like pizzas and stuff like that, like a pizza pilgrims where you can bring stuff in. But then if you go through the back, there's like a wee 6 table. Like through the back and down a lane, there's a wee 6 table number where you go in through the back door.
With a smell-proof door.
And they've always got the kebabs and the skewers and everything are always hanging with the lamb and chicken and all that kind of stuff ready for you to have whatever you fancy. That would be my thing. There would definitely need to be food there, and beer wise, I would also have the beer poured by people who know what they're doing, and who could talk you through stuff. Great bar staff or great kind of bar keeps are few and far between, and I would have some really good ones in my perfect pub.
Well, to jump on that bit, the thing I want to add, and it kind of the same with what you're saying with the Sierra Nevada piece, is I would like to always have one of the taps dedicated to like an international brewery, ideally America, but with all the tariff shit that's happening, like might have to be Spain or whatever, which is fine because we get garage. That's cool.
Fuck all this running oil lines. We'll just run lines straight for Buds of Vici.
Aye.
Straight in.
Aye.
Perfect.
I'll dig the hole myself.
If you want to let us know what your perfect pub is, let us know on Instagram or comment on the on this episode and tell us what your perfect pub is. Give us your list of beers, what you would have inside the pub. You have a fire, you're not having a fire, you're having a cigar room, you're not having a cigar room. What food are you going to put on at your pub? Let us know.
Maybe cigar domes would be good. Do we heated cigars?
Know,
I'm sure there's a kind of cigar lounge that's got the wee kind of like see the wee COVID domes that they had on top of the Prince's Mall in Edinburgh. A few of them with super good ventilation. I mean, you could go out there and eat your curry right enough.
Aye,
definitely. That's true.
Cigar come tandoori.
Cook your own naan.
Oh, one of the wee barbecue things.
Aye.
You can have it hot stone style, or you can go straight in.
Or like Korean barbecue, where they bring the barbecue, you have your barbecue at your table.
It comes with one of the
here,
things,
hold on.
the stick ball, the Velcro ball, but it's covered in about 3 towels for you.
Have you seen?
Up the old nan bread, and that's it.
Have you seen on TikTok? I think it's called Bengals. And the boy that runs it and owns it's called Raj. It's on TikTok,
Right.
and he's a wee guy. He's tiny. But the TikToks are hilarious, and he's trying to do like this kind of salt-based stuff. Yeah, he's got the black gloves on and stuff, and he's brings out the kind of pork sizzlers. He puts a naan bread down on the cutting board, and he gets his knife, and all he does is fucking hilarious. All he literally does is just bang each corner of the chopping board with his knife, and he's getting all the big in, and they're like, oh yes, this is great, fuck it, and he's just smacking shit at the corners, puts some pork on, does a wee dance, drops, and he's like, there you are, and he sprinkles a wee bit of fucking glitter on it. It is the funniest thing ever. It's complete shite, but he's charging me. I'll just like sprinkle glitter and just pretend and whack shit at this chopping board. That is fucking hilarious. You just reminded me when you were saying that. Oh, like that.
You can tell somebody's had a birthday.
I know.
Well, while Miguel opens that rather plain looking bottle, I'm going to talk about this beer that I opened a wee while ago. Saloon Doors West Coast IPA from Dunzoko, 6.3%. Now, some furious Googling hasn't yielded much results. They're not forthcoming with their hop bill at all. But what I can say for sure is that there's Simcoe in this beer. It's singing Simcoe, and it's absolutely stunning. It's got a fantastic body. It's resinous, piney, but that Simcoe's. I think Simcoe has overtaken El Dorado as my favourite hop. This beer is absolutely stunning, and a 500ml can as well. I mean, that's just outrageously good. You must get a can of this beer and try it.
I feel like that sounds awesome, but this one I'm having, I feel like, Gil, you've potentially, you've 100% wrote the wackagen on this. I'm reading this and all I can hear is your voice. Howland Hops, the Upper Crust, Red IPA, 5%, Chinook Cascade and Centennial, all the C's. Wackagen, the Toffs Abound, Squeaking and Shuriken, more red ale they cry. This is the bit that reminds me of you. Something with Chinook, Cascade, and Centennial, please. All bean. And colour of it is, as you would expect, that reddy, ambery colour, looking the biz, tasting of oranges a wee bit, and that kind of pininess in it as well. So it is tasting absolutely fantastic, and a nice change of pace to all the IPAs and stuff that we've been drinking for the last couple of weeks. Nice to get a little red number in there and change it up. Tasting lovely. And Howland Hops, I mean, Christ, when have they made a bad beer?
Not very often.
Not very often indeed. And it's got a wee kind of like funky dryness in the back of it that makes you just want to keep going back for it. Thoroughly enjoying that. Egg, talk us through your plain bottle there, sir.
So I have. I need to shout at the Against the Grain, where I stopped in. It was a birthday recently, as recently as Friday, and I got an all expenses paid trip to a bottle shop. I decided to pick one I'd never been to before, much to my chagrin. I'd never been to Against the Grain before in Morningside, so I went to see how the other half live. Went to see how the other half live, parked in Waitrose. Don't know how I didn't get asked to leave immediately as I walked through the space.
Well, to be fair, in Morningside, the Waitrose car park is the equivalent to our B&M car park.
Aye. Yep. So went there, parked up, wandered through, and straight to Against the Grain. An excellent selection. One of the only places in Edinburgh with the full, and I mean full, kernel offering available to you. Big bottles, wee bottles, all the different styles, as well as everything else. You could taking your pick. There was overtone, there was German stuff in there. There was, you could, like I say, everything, a really, really good range and good wide ranging selection. Something
Did you
for
get
everybody.
big bottles or wee bottles, Scott?
I got a couple of big bottles of Kernel. So I got this particular one is called Half Brick, which I'm picking anyway. It could have been any style of beer, but it's a red rye ale. It's only 4%, but in a turn up for the books, it doesn't taste like a beer at 4%. It's got the Kernel spin on it. So whether it's table beer or something a bit heftier, I think they always have that distinctive flavour profile, which is that it tastes like beer. And
Yeah.
it tastes like exactly what they intended it to be, regardless of the ABV, which is excellent. It's hopped with Simcoe and Centennial. So you get all that kind of luscious, warming spices and things like that, but then you get the modern twist that Kernel oft apply as well, where you've got the hops, the dry hops in there, giving it a bit of fruitiness. So it gives it a bit of zing. It doesn't make it too cloying or too, I don't know, it's not oppressively warming.
No.
Like you might do for a kind of more traditional version of that style of beer. It's giving you a bit of pininess as well. It probably lends itself to more autumn as a season, but seeing as we seem to be clinging on to winter for grim death,
Aye.
our beginnings of spring seem a lot like autumn at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking
How
with
fresh
it.
is it?
This is this bottled November.
It's had plenty of time to settle in
And it's just as, it's full of flavour. It doesn't taste like it's been sat there for as long as that. It looks great.
Oh.
That's kind of slight haste to it. Looks
Are the
proper
bottles
dark.
refrigerated, Scott, in the
Yes.
against the grain now? Yeah.
Perfect.
You've got both, I think. You know what it reminds me, and I'm trying to remember. Beer Zoo. Reminds me of Beer Zoo. At Porty.
Some fridges and some
Similar
shelves.
setup. A good proportion of chipboard. Chipboard to non-chipboard ratio, and then great, like the owner just knows everything. Like they'll walk you through everything. Great chat. I know Mark's been in pestering the life out of him to come on the podcast, and he's toying with the idea. I don't know how much me and Jade saying, basically like the woman for Father Ted saying, "Go on, go on, go on, go on." Basically for about a dozen times before we left the shop. I don't know whether we've kind of helped or hindered our chances of jumping on for a chat, but you can imagine Mark's boredom to tears about German lager, or no boredom to tears. He's managed to hold a conversation with him, so that's definitely our type of person to have a chat with. But it was a great shop. Go in if you're passing by that sort of area, even if you're gone. If you get disappointed at the charity shop run that you've made and there's not quite as much designer gear in the old charity shops as you expected it to be, you go in there and console yourself.
Sounds like you're talking from personal experience, Scott.
I've run the gauntlet. I've run the Heart Foundation gauntlet many a time.
They Gucci handbags in the Morningside Heart Foundation shop, no?
It's like it's the West Lothian version of Bargain Hunt.
The Toffs have discovered Vinted. That's the final death knell for the charity shop. That's it.
There's still enough there to keep your interest. The other one is I don't know I can't remember what it's called, but if you go to Morningside or you've been there a few times, you'll know what I mean. The Western, the street that looks like it's a cowboy, like a kind of John Wayne-esque movie, which was a kind of set built, I believe, for a furniture company back in the day. Yeah, I spoke about it before. Very much so. Yeah. But there's just a random like old Citroen AX because there's an MOT centre there, so you go like an old Citroen AX and getting its MOT or whatever.
That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent to the old nag tied up outside the saloon, isn't it?
Tied up right at the trough. But it's a crack. I mean, Morningside's quite. You've got a couple of good pubs there, as well. that bottle shop's incredible if you're just stopping in to grab a couple before you go. I had never been before, well worth a visit. And amongst all the other great places, your usual suspects in Edinburgh in terms of bottle shops, but go there if you're up that neck of the woods, well worth a visit. And this beer's excellent. Well done, Colonel, again. As if you needed me to tell you that.
Exactly. Think they probably know it. Good stuff. Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. I've got nothing else on my sheet to go through unless there's something else you guys want to mention.
No, we'll keep it short and sweet this week.
Sounds good. Sounds good. As always, whenever you listen to this episode, make sure you're subscribed, hit that ding-a-ling-a-ling to be notified of every single episode. You can show support, bring us a 5-star rating, and show your official support at patreon.com/beer fridge podcast. Make sure you check out the blog. Link will be in the description as well. Head over to the Just Giving page. Link will also be below. And until next time on the podcast, from myself and the guys, cheerio.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.